Marton Kovacs from Momondo, and
Yes.
we are glad to have you here, and we are glad that the airlines, even if they were late, that they still made it, yeah?
Yeah, they still made it.
You had some challenges there, right?
Yeah, so good morning. So this morning I managed to get a flight delayed by 2 hours from Copenhagen, but I'm here finally.
Good.
So I realized after a few days that the working title that I sent to the organizers was extremely long, so I choose another one, everything around the user. And what I would like to talk today is what kind of challenge we faced at Momondo. Probably most of you know the brand, since you're living, or most of you are living in the Nordics. Momondo has been growing a lot in the past few years, and we have lots of data, and it's been a very extensive growth that we have gone through. And we wanted to somehow use the data, not only collect the data, but to use the data to give our users even better products, even better recommendations, and also to help them find their next travel, their next destination. So probably you heard, but Momondo was acquired by Kayak, which was an even bigger company in the meta search field. It's a US-based company. They own a lot of markets, rule a lot of markets in the world. So now Kayak is our owner, and we actually have 6 different brands across the globe with the same purpose, to give the favorite travel tools for every single user that are using our products. Now, how can we do it? So as I started, we had a great challenge. What should be the next step in a user's journey in order to increase the lifetime value and to get better monetization, to get higher ROI, and so on and so on. And we also wanted to know what should be the right channel and the right message to reach this. So if you take a look at on the right side, you can see that we have tons of users, and then there are a lot of different ways that the users can take, or a lot of different paths that the users can take. And then we need to decide if you want to push the user towards signing up for a user account, if you want to push the user to download our app, if you want to push the user to start using another product. Let's say the user only used the flight search, but not the hotel search, so then we need to push them to use the other product as well. Or we have a user that knows the product from A to Z, but has no idea what the next destination should be, their next trip should be. Then we need to help them finding their next destination. All these with some obstacles. The main obstacle is that we are working with cookies. We don't really have any user accounts. We don't know who our users are. And we also don't know if they actually book their flights or hotels, because we are just sending qualified leads to our partners, to the airlines, to the hotel chains, and so on and so on. So it's very limited what we know about the users, but we still wanted to do something that can help our product, our monetization, and the users at the same time to get better experience and higher revenue. So what we can do, what we are doing, is actually we take this well-known search tab, and basically that's all our input. We know the origin, we know the destination, we know the departure date, the return date, the number of passengers, if it's a direct flight or not direct flight, and so on and so on. In case of hotels, we know the number of guests and the rooms. So it's quite limited. And of course, we know what traffic source the user came to the site. Was it a paid search? Was it a direct visit? Was it something through emails? Was it something through Facebook, and so on and so on? But basically, that's all that we know about the user, nothing else. And then with this very limited set of parameters, we want to derive as much information on the user as possible. Now, how can we do it? So we decided that we're going to build up 3 different dimensions. The so-called hard scores, which is basically nothing else, just collecting all the knowledge, all the product level information from the user If the user is using only the flight search or the hotel search, package search, car search, and so on and so on, what are the different channels, marketing channels that the user is visiting our site? Are these typically branded channels? So are we meeting a user that actually knows the brand already, or are we meeting a user that just started to use it? That's a very relevant difference when we talk about monetization. If the user is only using the desktop version, the app version, and so on, and so on, and so on. And then the search type. So how can we define if a user is actually interested in a summer holiday or a winter holiday, or is it a business trip? So what we can do here is actually using a quite simple decision tree model. Based on the search parameters, we put every single search into one of these categories. And that's it. And the third thing is the behavior scores. So we count a lot of different things, the number of visits, number of searches, the click-outs, if the user is typically a domestic traveler or a cross-continent traveler, if the user is planning the trips, let's say 6 months ahead, or is the user someone who is only looking for the next weekend? Is the user typically traveling with kids, or alone, or with friends, couples, and so on and so on. So basically, this is all based on a simple decision tree model, but we can use it for a lot of things. Because if we use it, then we can actually create overlapping user roles. Because if you just think about yourself, today you are kind of business travelers. Everyone who traveled to Stockholm today from other countries is a business traveler. You were searching for a trip, arriving here in the morning, going back to your home in the evening. But for the next weekend, you might be searching for a trip with your wife or husband or your kids or whoever. So that's a very different role. Every single user has different roles every single week. Every single search is different. We cannot put any user into one bucket, that you are this 30 to 39 Scandinavian male user. No, there's no such user. So we have to have overlapping user roles on the one hand. And we also have to see what is the actual interest of a user. Because if you just think about, again, your next summer holiday, you probably started to plan your next summer holiday in January. That's the absolute peak season for the travel sites. So you started to plan it. Maybe you also booked something, we don't know. But if we would only collect this information about you, and by collect I don't want to be creepy at all, but if we would only collect this information about you, that you were interested in a summer holiday, then we would have no idea how to reach you, what message we should use if you want to make you book a new flight or a new hotel in the autumn, because all we know is that you were searching something in the summer. So what we're actually doing is that we take, on the one hand, a 365 days overview on every single user. That's, I call it, the generic user interest and user behavior. And at the same time, we also take a 100 days window, which is the last 50 days and the oldest 50 days of your history. Because if you did something last year, this time, from mid-March to, end of May, then there's a huge chance that you will actually repeat that action. If you're searching for a trip to whatever country, then you have an interest probably in traveling again to a similar country, or at least you have an interest to travel again. Not necessarily the same continent or same country, but you might have this habit of traveling in May, for example. So overlapping user roles, generic interest, and actual interest that we can use anytime easily. So this we can call the user DNA. We like the DNA a lot. I guess you remember the DNA campaign of Momondo. So we like this user DNA thing, which is great. We have tons of information, every single cookie that has ever visited our website. We could call it a user profiling. But how do we make this actually work? Because it's nice to have a lot of data on everyone, but it's not really useful if we don't work on it, don't act on it. And that was the user side. But if we really want to use it, then we actually use this exact same idea on every destination and every origin. Every single geolocation has a specific pattern. Again, if you think about your own location, let it be whatever, Berlin, Stockholm, Madrid, a city in South America, every single city has a different composition of searches every single week. So, for example, most of the users that are living in the Nordics are looking for warm Southeast Asian destinations for February, because everyone is fed up with the gray and disgusting winter. Or the other option is that we are looking for ski destinations. That's true for Stockholm, for Helsinki, for Oslo, for Copenhagen, and so on and so on and so on. But what about users sitting in, let's say, in Lisbon? They're not going to go to an even warmer place. No, they're fine. That's 15 degrees or 20 degrees in the winter, that's fine. What they're looking for is something very different. So using the exact same labeling system that we applied on the users, we can actually define the demand pattern of every single geolocation in the world. Now, if we have this, the GeoDNA, this is a bit, let's say the data science-like. So, if we take the first line, we have all the users, and by using this labeling system, we get tons of information on the users. The next step is using the users and the destination patterns, find the link between the two, and using this link, we can actually identify what is the next destination for any given user, what destinations they might be interested in. If I was searching before for a trip from Copenhagen to Rome, and this origin and destination pair is actually very similar to a Copenhagen-Barcelona, then we can actually recommend this trip to the same user. So basically what we are looking for with the GeoDNA is really the DNA of the trips of different origin and destination pairs. Can we identify similar origins and destinations or not? If we can, then we can recommend it for the user. And actually, we can also use it for hotels. So if you imagine that you're looking for a family holiday to Barcelona on week 26, then you already booked the flight, and now you're looking for a hotel. Then option one is that we list all the hotels that we have in our inventory. Option two is that we try to personalize it a bit, because we already had a lot of users who were searching and booking hotels in Barcelona on that specific week with kids. So we actually know which hotels are family-friendly hotels. Why recommend a hotel that is meant for businessmen if we know that we have at least 20, 50 hotels that were booked already by family users? And if we combine all this knowledge, then we can actually do something great. So what are the different scenes where we are using this information? The first is performance marketing. Momondo is spending, or now Kayak, we are spending a lot on performance marketing. I'm not allowed to say how much, but it's really a lot. So it's really crucial that we optimize our spending. Just 1%, 0.1% of optimization is that counts for a lot. So what we can do with all this information, all this profiling information, is that we actually send these values back to Google Analytics. And if we send it back to Google Analytics, then we can set up audiences in Analytics. And if we set up the audiences, we can actually act on them in AdWords and in the Google Display Network campaigns. So we can actually exclude or include users. We can modify the bids according to what we think the user works for us, according what we think if the user is going to convert on our website with the next visit or not. So for example, if we have a user that we have seen 5 times on the website already, but the user never actually clicked on either a flight or a hotel, then does it really make sense to spend again on that user, to bid again on that user when he starts typing in flights from Berlin to Malaga? No, probably not. The chances that the user will bounce again is very, very high. So that's just one option how we can exclude users in performance marketing. Or if we have a very valuable, high-value user that converts, let's say, 80% of the cases, then it actually makes sense to increase our bids for the keyword by, let's say, 20%, because we're going to earn money. So that's the performance marketing part. Landing page. There are 2 cases. If we face a user that has never been on the site before, then we actually know, the only thing we know about the user is the location. But what we know about the location? For every single city, we know what's the actual pattern, what are the actual trending destinations from every city. From Copenhagen right now, the trending destinations are Bangkok, Laos, I don't know, New York, and so on and so on. From another city, this is another set of destinations. So for first-time users that we have never seen before, we can recommend the destinations that are the most trending ones. If it's a returning user, then it's a bit different picture, because then we already have a set of knowledge on that user in our package. So we would not only recommend the destinations that are generic, we could recommend the destinations that are relevant for that profile. If it was a typical family user, then we can recommend the destinations that other families are searching for right now. Search result ranking. I already mentioned the hotel searches. Of course, we could probably do something with the flight searches, but finding the best flight for anyone is incredibly complicated, because the price sensitivity can be very different, because we don't know what time the user loves to travel, if it takes several hours to get to the airport, or is it only 30 minutes? So we cannot really play around with the flight results. But with the hotels, we can actually, because we know what kind of profile the user belongs to, and what kind of what hotels similar profiles has already booked. So we can very well use it to give you the best hotel that we think is the best for you. And then the next destination. So I already mentioned this DNA of the origin and destination pairs. And I remember that it was probably last year when someone from Zalando mentioned the same DNA term, how they actually plan the demand for the different clothes. Do they need to buy white jeans because there will be a huge demand for that, or rather let's buy pink ones or blue ones or whatever? It's actually the same idea, trying to find similar patterns between different origins and destinations, between geolocations. And if we have this, then we actually know what will be your next destination. Of course, you can decide differently, but we can also play with the recommendations. We can choose our recommendations according to the best user experience, what we think will really be your next one. We can also decide to choose a destination that is still relevant for you, but it's even more relevant for us, because that's the best monetizing destination for us. We get the highest commission from our partners. Or we can choose a destination that is still relevant for you, probably not that good, the monetization, but the conversion rate is great. Many, many options how we can play around with it. It's really up to the test, basically, what we're going to choose. And I really don't like this slide, but actually I think it's true. What I enjoy in this is that it's super simple. We don't use any fancy AI, we don't use any fancy thing. Very simple data aggregation, very simple predictions, very simple clustering, and so on and so on and so on. It's so simple that it's hard to believe that it works. But it actually works. And the other thing is that it's really scalable. So we're already working with millions of data every day. And of course, our user base is growing every day. And the users are searching for more and more and more and more destinations every day. And we get new products. And we get content. And we get not millions, but dozens of new data sources that we can actually use to enrich this data set, to get more and more knowledge on the users. And if we have more and more knowledge on the users, and we see what they're searching for, then we actually have more and more knowledge on the destinations. So it's a loop, actually. The more you use the website, the more we know, but we never know who you are. Don't forget. I don't think it's creepy. It might be frightening, but it's not creepy. That's all. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Marton. I think